Are you sick of the absolute slop fest that is the seasonal dumpster fire of new and completely unoriginal isekai anime? I know I sure as hell am. But guess what? Just like how once in a blue moon there's a diamond to be found in that trash, today we've found Shangri-La Frontier, an anime that gives you all the best parts of an isekai without being an isekai, and actually being a consistently enjoyable watch. Let's dive into why that is. Now, for starters, this is an anime which, by all means, should not work. The premise is literally Sword Art Online, but without the insane game master to trap the players inside the game. It's the story of a completely ordinary kid who just happens to be addicted to conquering the worst and most buggy games in existence through sheer grit, skill, and experience. So, when he takes all that skill and experience and starts playing the most popular VR MMORPG in the world, Shangri-La Frontier, he's naturally a top-tier player. But I'll talk about him in a second. Without getting into too many spoilers, I just want to talk about how well written this thing is. I mean, there are no real stakes, right? It's just a dude playing a VR video game for fun, as a hobby. There's no life or death scenarios. There's no IRL benefits to playing the game. Hell, the MC doesn't even have any kind of tragic backstory or dysfunctional family. If anything, his home life is damn near perfect. And yet, the author of this series manages to bring everything together in such a superb manner that you still feel invested in the protagonist's journey through this new world. And that's mainly thanks to one thing. This author just gets it. They get what it's like to love games and love playing them. They get what a good game is like, and they get what makes so many of us invest our time and hearts into them. The MC isn't just some self-insert for a power fantasy story to live vicariously through. He feels like a real person. A real gamer, for that matter. He doesn't just get dumped into this new world and instantly become the most overpowered bastard in existence. Don't get me wrong, he's pretty OP for a beginner. But you can actually feel that that's just because he's a really skilled gamer, and not because of some bullcrap plot armor and or contrivance. You actually get to watch him go through his journey and get stronger and more capable every step of the way. You get to see him actually go through what a genuinely committed and good gamer does. And that's failure. Because there is no shortage of times this guy dies. Matter of fact, the first real big bad he comes across makes him croak pretty fast, even though he's able to survive for quite a while off of his skills alone. Now, I'm not going to go into any details about that scenario exactly because, again, spoilers. But that loss and death leads to a major defining feature of the MC's avatar for the rest of the show. Throughout the anime, we get to see the MC in his IRL life, just being an ordinary teenager, spending time with his family, hanging out with his boys at school, shopping for gaming fuel, running into the girl who, unknown to him, is crushing on him like crazy. Yeah, that's a thing too. And it's actually what you could call the B-plot of the anime. This absolutely lovesick puppy of a teenager who's trying her best to get close to her crush in the game world so she can get over her shyness around him IRL. Roundabout as hell? Yeah, but also super fun to watch. Because she's an actually likable character. Also, yeah, beyond the MC's journey in the game world, it's her personal quest that really keeps you glued to the screen. I will say, though, I have some gripes with how little of the IRL side of things we actually get to see beyond the first few episodes. Don't get me wrong, what we do get to see is still absolutely awesome. But the IRL side of our MC's life is almost just as enjoyable and interesting to watch. Between his family being full of eccentrics who all come together for shared dinners while leaving their hobbies aside, the girl who's crushing on him, and even his online friends who are pretty big deals in the real world, it would have been really fun to see more interactions between all of those people. But to be fair, the family's too eccentric to stick together longer than their weekly family time. The girl isn't at the point where she's confident enough to actually talk to him IRL, and his online friends are there in the game world anyways. That's something I'll just have to hope we get more of in Season 2. Now, let's talk about the characters themselves. In a word, lovable. I already talked about the MC a little bit, but let me just reiterate. He's the epitome of the "he just like me" meme, if you take out the degenerate side of it. He just feels real, and yet, at the same time, he also kind of doesn't, if that makes sense. I mean, the dude willingly tortures himself for hours on end with terrible and buggy games, and actually finds it fun. And it's not like he was doing that in preparation for playing SLF or anything either. He's just a genuine masochist. Regardless of that, though, every step he takes on his journey is perfectly balanced between his insane gaming skills and a realistic experience that doesn't just let him stomp the crap out of the game. He takes things in stride. He refuses to give up. He has the commitment of an Elden Ring speedrunner, and he has some of the best action scenes you'll see in a seasonal anime these days. It's not just him either. Every character he interacts with is just as enjoyable when they're on screen. His two online friends, who he's broken trash games with before, are just as skilled and determined as him. But that's not even the most impressive part of the character writing in Season 1. No, that goes to the NPCs of the game world. I'm not even going to bother comparing this to other anime, because that's not the comparison you think of when you watch this and get to see how absolutely amazing the NPCs are. At least in my mind, the comparison I draw is to NPCs in actual games, and holy moly, these blow everything else out of the water. I mean, look, I know it's an anime, so obviously every character on screen is going to have some personality. But with how much this show keeps you reminded of the fact that it's just a video game in an otherwise completely normal world, it's mind-boggling to see NPCs with such rich writing, lovable personalities, and downright human interactions. I know I said I'd stay out of spoilers, but look at this bunny! Do you see how adorable this little furball is? Well, its personality is exactly the same, and that's not even to speak about its dad, who happens to be the Yakuza-looking boss of a massive rabbit city. Yeah, stuff gets pretty wacky, but the extra suspension of disbelief that you're allowed thanks to the knowledge that this is a fictional world inside a fictional world makes it pretty easy to accept. The NPCs in this anime are truly the pinnacle of what any gamer wishes they could see in their favorite games. They're real enough to even warrant an emotional investment from arguably the coldest member of the main cast, which is one of the MC's online friends. But again, that's territory I won't go into. Finally, another topic I touched on earlier is the absolute eye candy that is the action in this anime. Every single hit, every block, every parry of every single battle is animated so amazingly that there are times you completely forget that this isn't a big mainstream anime like Sword Art Online itself. I know that's the second time I've used that comparison, but it's just the first that comes to mind. The fight scenes in this show aren't what you'd call second to none, but they're definitely way up there for the category of anime that this falls under. From the effects to the fight choreography itself and the way that enemies are balanced for players to fight, everything is just a joy to watch. Honestly, there's not really much else to say about this. It's just really good. All in all, Shangri-La Frontier isn't something that's going to absolutely knock your socks off and amaze you with its god-tier production or writing in the way that something like Mushoku Tensei or Frieren might, but it has a certain charm to it that makes it feel like a warm cup of cocoa on a winter day. Between how satisfying and wholesome most character interactions are, the actually enjoyable take on gaming from someone who clearly understands the hobby, and the overall quality of the show's production, Shangri-La Frontier is a severely underrated anime that most definitely deserves more viewership and praise, something which it unfortunately lost out on because of being released in the same season as massive competitors like the two I just mentioned. If you have some free time and you haven't decided on what your next watch is, I would absolutely recommend this anime. And, lucky for us, Season 2 comes out this month. I can't wait.